Hello everyone, good morning. I think it's not a tech conference or a tech meeting without any technological challenges. So I think it's a good omen. So yeah, thank you for having me here. Thank you for Analytics India magazine. My name is Himali, and it's good to be back in Bangalore. That's where I started my journey maybe 13, 14 years back as a data scientist. And I could definitely use a break from Delhi winters. So I'm really, really enjoying. So yeah, I'll be talking today about AI at an enterprise level, moving beyond point solutions. So what do we mean by this? It's basically my understandings or my learnings from the big scale implementations, and I'll talk about it and also give a bit of intro. So as I said, I started as a data scientist, and then I worked across data science consulting companies with the major retailers across US, Europe. And before going on the other side of the proverbial fence, which we say, so then I joined CircleK, CircleK India. So CircleK is a fuel and convenience retailer based out of US and Europe. So I joined here as the first employee in CircleK India. And then my task was to set up the AI practice. So basically building up the data science and analytics teams. And then I'll have to move a bit for changing the slides, but yeah. So I'm passionate about the data and basically bring scale and implement it. My mantra is creating an impact. Like if something is not creating an impact, I would just feel, okay, why it's not creating an impact, or why I'm not getting the higher decibels when I am doing some work. And then, as I said, I'll be sharing the learnings over past years on implementing AI. So a quick question before we move on. I'd like to ask how many of you have worked in advanced setup of AI? So when I say advanced, I mean you have a development team, you have a design team, then you have someone to track your models, then you have someone to productionize your models. So how many have worked in that sort of advanced setup? Or are working? Okay, a few hands. And how many have worked in a setup which is, scratch, one person doing everything? So that is what I used to do. I used to import the data from CSV file and then build a model and then speak to the client when I started. So raise of hands. Okay, quite a few. Then I have chosen a good topic. I was thinking like everybody is talking about what is AI or what is generative AI, but then I would say whatever AI technology or whatever software technology we are talking about, it has to be implementable, and it has to be implementable at scale. So that's why I chose this topic. So that's where people who have worked in the advanced setup, they'll get to know, okay, how we start from scratch, like when there is no setup like that, how do you go to there? And then people who have worked are working in the scratch setup, they may get some ideas to be taken to their management or to the people who can actually influence change. So here is the topic. So why of enterprise AI? And that's why I'm talking about enterprise AI. What is enterprise AI? And then how it's purely on the basis, it's a framework which we have been able to generate, or I have been able to get in my mind based on the experience and then the future perspectives. So let's talk about why enterprise AI and why we wanted scale at CircleK. So just a quick background about CircleK. We have about 17,000 stores across US, Europe, Canada, 29 countries, and it's about a 150K number. I've not updated this number. But that means whatever we are doing, it has to be scalable. So I may build a cool model, but then after that, the next question, or my team will build a good model, and then the next question would be, okay, how scalable it is? Or how can you do it faster? Can you do it quicker and at a big scale? So what we achieved, in our major AI pipelines, like a couple of our major solutions, we were able to reduce the time in which we were doing the work by 60%. We were able to get save half the time of the data scientists in the team, and I'm sure all the people who are building models or working hands-on, they would want to save their time so that they can work on newer, innovative things. And then we use that time for building different solutions or designing. I'll give one example, which is we are building an on-demand insight kind of report using the large language models, but I'll talk mostly about scale today. So what is enterprise AI? So in terms of enterprise AI, if you try to Google, you'll get a lot of different definitions, a lot of explanations where people may bring big words. I'll simplify it to two things. First is operational efficiency. Anything we are doing, it should be faster, it should be quicker, it should be able to scale it up to multiple business units or multiple countries. And in that process, we enhance the productivity of the teams. They are happy, they are engaged, and they don't leave us, which has happened. We have a very good retention rate. So that's about the depth. And then once we are able to build that depth, especially with the business partners as well, we get transformation. So if I have built a good depth in one place, then we are able to scale it to different functions. So as I said, we are a fuel and a convenience retailer. We have the loyalty programs. We have like a major supplier, downstream supplier of fuel. So if I have built a solution in pricing, and then if I take it to something else, maybe like reviewing the customer feedback, or maybe giving or building an on-demand insight, or maybe recommending what products we should be selling in the store, anything from 0 to 1, people will believe and people will trust us. So let's make it real. So just because of confidentiality and IP things, I cannot share the exact solution, but then I'll say that we have developed a cool way of recommending prices, and that cool way of recommending prices it's actually really extensive. So our models, we can recommend the price at a product level, and that price actually goes in the stores. So if there are 1,000 stores in Texas, every product, like every price for every store, it'll be what we are recommending. That's to the second decimal point. So if we say 2.49 for a burger, or if we say 1.49 for a can of Pepsi, it will be that in the store. So, and then it varies. It varies by places, it varies by time, it varies by categories. So we have different models with the feedback loop on for this. But it was all cool, but then there were a few challenges. Manual processes, time to run, and integration with business. Manual processes, I'm sure even if I don't see your raise of hands, people are really challenged by this. So one example is basically we used to get inputs from the business. For example, and I've taken this example of pricing, like throughout my conversation, I'll be talking about pricing. So pricing, even if I'm telling 2.49, I can't just recommend on my own. I have to know from a category manager or from a category buyer that this can be the minimum price and this can be the maximum price. So, or they have to tell me what can be the minimum or a maximum margin that I can go to. Or there are other constraints. So for example, tobacco or beer or alcohol, they have different taxing system in the US or in Europe. Then they have to tell me what are the variations, and that has to be fed into the model. So it's not like a simple yes or no. These things have to be gotten into the model. So we need these inputs. Time to run, just a random number I've taken, like 40,000 models. It's like if I am recommending price for 2,000 products in my 20 business units, that's the models. And there are multiple models in the entire AI pipeline. So the end goal is to maximize revenue, maximize margin, or to maximize the unit. So it can vary, and that is a feedback loop. So the model will learn, and then it will recommend the price. Integration with business, because of all of these challenges, we had longer like gestation time. They used to ask a price sometimes like in January, and we were able to give in maybe April or May, like it used to take 3-4 months. That's like the longest. We had some quicker turnaround times as well. But yeah, and then unrewarding data science effort. I am a data scientist at heart still, so I really don't want that time to be spent. But this is not just the solution with us. This is a solution with, this is the challenge with all point solutions. Whatever we build, we may have a manual process, it will take time to run, or it takes longer to integrate with the business. Another example is if I have dealing with people as well. So if I have, let's say, 20 BUs again, if I am covering minimum of 10 categories, I need to deal with 200 people. So those 200 people have to believe like what I am recommending is the correct price. So they have to see all their inputs are taken care of, all their constraints are being met. So if I'm running a constraint optimization, it has to be met. And if the model is giving a feedback loop, they have to believe that the model is giving the correct feedback loop. So to this, we went through a 4-step process, but I'm sure a lot of us have seen this. The thing with us was we didn't actually have it set up for us, and our job was to set it up from scratch. So how did we do it? I'll talk about first, which is the data foundation. So let me just save time and bring all 4. Okay, so data foundation, user interface, scalable infrastructure, and MLOps. So first is the data foundation. What do we mean by this? This we've all seen. The data is like our biggest challenge, and we need to manage the quality of the data, and that's why we had built the data quality monitoring modules. We have used some packages. I can take one name, but we are also building in-house, so something like Great Expectation or something. But then now we are building our own. Unity Catalog, we have Azure and Databricks set up at our company. So this is a feature from Databricks which helps us to manage the access. It helps us to get the data lineage, where the data is coming from. If I have one table, what are the sources? How do I connect? How do I join? So this was very important because if I am talking about pricing, but there may be another question around the loyalty program. So I have to see what are my loyal or my customers who have the app, they are able to join. They are able to see what prices they are seeing. So I should be able to see that. So it was important. User interface. So I talked about the manual processes. So for that, we built a web-based user interface for getting the getting the inputs. Access controls. Access controls meaning someone sitting in Latvia should be able to only see their own information page. Someone sitting in Texas should be able to see their page. And then batch processing, which means as soon as they are giving the input. For now, we have kept a time of hours. So within like 3 to 4 hours, the input will go and the models will be triggered. So that's about it. I'll take one personal example from this. So I've recently started investing financially, and then a lot of people used to tell me, okay, you should not do it through brokers. You use it through straight away websites and all. But if I talk about apps which are nowadays common like Grow or Zerodha, I was like, I am fine to pay money as long as I get a good user interface. I'll able to see something. It's exactly the same. I'm a customer for Grow or for Zerodha. Our business is customer for us. So that's the mindset we are thinking towards, that we should be able to give them good user interface so that they understand and they believe and the implementation happens. Scalable infrastructure, as I said, we have Azure and Databricks. The biggest change what we brought about was the environments. So this setup was not there. So CircleK, it's a big retailer, but then with respect to, we know how to sell fuel, we know how to sell the products which are in a convenience store, but then from the point of view of advanced AI capabilities, we are still on the journey, and that is why it gave us the white space to do it from scratch. So environments, setting up these environments for the AI pipelines are important. I used to think a few years back that it does not make sense for AI. It's a software development life cycle, and we are just trying to copy it. But then, as I learned over the years, that it is important. When I worked with the major retailers. So, and then Azure Logic App, it's like a workflow integration tool. So we used this as a starting point, but now getting to the code part of it. Building the pipelines. The last one is MLOps. So this is also very important, and how I would differentiate scalable infrastructure and MLOps is when I have a model, and someone is trying to improvise the model by adding a new feature or something, then we have some sort of testing there, continuous integration, continuous development. I'll not go into there, a lot of people would know already, but that testing is there. Model monitoring, so there are drifts in the models, be either it's a demand forecasting model or a baseline model or an optimization model, or maybe my feedback loop, there are drifts happening all the time. I should be able to capture them, and I should be able to improve them. And then the trigger notifications of the feedback loop. So these are all, like, this is how I would say broadly dividing it into 4 parts, and that is how you can convert a point solution into a scalable solution. Do it for one thing first and then go for the next thing. And I'll come to it, like how we can structure that part. And then, so that's how we did it. In the process of it, as the change makers or someone who's able to, drive a change in our team, in our company, or in any company, if I may say, there were these 3 things which we were able to achieve. So advanced analytics framework, strategic data assets, and agile. So advanced analytics framework, what do we mean? We've developed a framework for us which allows us to design, develop, test, and scale. We have stage gates at every point. I am not a big fan of processes. As a data scientist, I was the last one to do any of the process, the last one to do to meet the deadlines in terms of the admin related stuff, not on the work or deliverables, but yeah. Sometimes it's required, because then it helps us, as I'm saying, like it helps us that build one solution, scale it, you get that time, you get that credibility and trust with the business. So advanced analytics frameworks to do that. At every stage gate, we know whether it's going to scale or not, or whether it's worth investing or money or resources on it. And yesterday I heard a talk, someone was talking about the cost of running the GPUs and how do you optimize that. That's what we are exactly doing right now. I mean, I found it very relevant, because once we were done with the solution and scaling, and now the question is, okay, you are burning dollars, so how do you reduce that? So that, and then strategic data assets, cannot stress on the fact that we need to have this, be it a smaller setup or a bigger setup, we have to have this, even if you are working in a small team, only focused on your own work. But I'll say, if you build this, it'll really help you as an individual, because it'll fasten things up. And the last one is agile. Agile is again one of those, more like, I used to think it's a project management framework. It can, and I have actually sent, I think maybe 3-4 years back, I sent an email to my manager at that time, and I told him that I am being asked to sit in the meetings and all. It's a waste of my time. It's a waste of my team's time. But now I understand that for some, there has to be a balance, but we need to have some sort of framework so that we are able to follow the process of what are the improvements we need, what are the improvements we will be able to spend our time on, and then the team, we spend our time on that and we get the value. One of the important factors is also it enabled communication and transparency. So we had like multiple teams working on, so one team working on one optimization model, another team is working on another version of optimization, the third team was building on the forecasting impact or estimating whether we are recommending the right margin or not. So margin is super important for us as a company, and I'm sure for any business, and that is why there were different teams, and we were not able to work in a coherent way. So this sort of helped us that, okay, if I'm doing step 1 and 2, how is that impacting step 3? So everyone knew where we are, is that going to make an impact or not? And then how, if there are any challenges or interdependencies, we were able to clear them up. And then some of the strategic shifts which happened, as I said, we got time for innovation, and I'm very proud of the fact that our team, it's like for everyone in the team, we have been able to build a setup wherein we are able to work on something new, and we are working on scaling our solution. And once that has scaled, now we have moved on to the next thing, like that set of team or different people. So it helps us to get that diversity. Product mindset, again, we get enhanced data size infrastructure or the framework, and it helps us to think about it like a product. It's not just about we go on the research, but then we do that, but then along with that, we also think how it can be implemented. It's not just about doing the research. Okay, and then coming to conclusion. Okay, so with all of this, what am I trying to say? It's about how. This how cannot be same for everyone. It will vary. So that is something which we'll have to figure out. We cannot, like we may have Azure or Databricks, someone may have AWS, someone may not even have a cloud. They have all their information on their own servers. I've worked with a client for a long time where all their information was on their own servers. They didn't want anything on cloud because they did not trust it. But then still, there can be some things that we can pick up, and I would really urge everyone here that if we can take up even one of this, it will help us in saving time. And as a community, it's always about it's about we are building things. I'm an engineer as well. I'm sure a lot of you are. So we are building things, but then we are able to build it for an impact. So that's why the recipe will vary. It will also depend on the area of influence we have within the organization. Again, in our case, it was a need. And that is why we had that resources, we had that business investment, and we had that support. But sometimes we may not have that kind of investment, but then we can figure out. So a lot of the open source tools, the open source technologies are present, so we can do that. And then two main things, talent and innovation. Talent, I have not talked about talent just a bit in terms, but that's like very, very important thing. We were able to do all of this because apart from AI, we also had talent like building the front end. We call that as app development or a cloud infrastructure or a data engineering team. So as a full-fledged or as a team, it'll be good to, we need that, like doing innovation only on one front will not help us to get that value and scale that we are looking for. We should be able to get that innovation going on all fronts. So it's not an exhaustive list, but definitely these are some different areas. So we should go out and speak to different teams if you have different teams. But then if it's like a one team, one man or a few people team, we should try to get a diverse skill set in our teams. It'll really help. It'll really be helpful. It has helped us a lot. It has helped me a lot. But yeah, and then the second is innovation. We always have to keep our eye on innovation, building on new things, getting to know what's going on in the industry. Conferences like these, it's really helpful to get out there and understand what's happening, and then make time for it. And you can make time only for if you go with the implementation. So it takes a village for doing this, and it has actually taken us a village to do this. So yeah, I think that was mostly it from my end.